Yeah, listen, I know George R.R. Martin just chastised anti-fans, toxic fans. He was trying to paint everybody with a broad brush, and yeah, he's never going to finish the books, but super excited about this spin-off that's now just recently been announced. Okay, Aegon's Conquest is gonna be super dope. I am so excited, and I make mention of this every time I have the opportunity to, but House of the Dragon Season 2, I'm looking forward to with a lot of glee. Once we can get a concrete release date, I will be over the moon for that. I gotta look at how I'm gonna properly tackle the coverage of that, but that's something to just, push off for a couple of months. But right now we can talk about the story that they could potentially tell with Aegon's Conquest. Now, the people that are behind this, I want to know more because, well, is this really what Game of Thrones is going to be doing now that you are trying to put, the stench of seasons, I would argue 5, 6, 7, but for most people, season 8 of Game of Thrones well behind us by going out and telling a really good, complete story with House of the Dragon, the Targaryen Civil War, and then with probably one of the biggest stories that they could possibly tell, kind of an origin story for Westeros in general, the Westeros that we all know and appreciate. Like the creation and the formation of the Seven Kingdoms, a dragon that has been alluded to in both of the previous stories. You've seen his skull multiple times over, and then with this series right here, you can actually see him in his prime, in all of his glory. I cannot wait to see Balerion, the Black Dread, fly with Aegon, the Conqueror, mounted on the biggest dragon in cataloged history. It's going to be so goddamn cool to see. And while the story of the Conquest it's kind of a one-sided affair because, yes, you have Aegon with Balerion, also carrying Blackfire, his Valyrian steel sword, absolutely mowing through the opposition, the disparate little kingdoms that are around there, and he ultimately unites everybody through fire and blood. And I can't wait specifically for one specific speech that he gives to one ill-fated family that tonight, when the sun goes down, your line ends. That's going to be the coolest thing ever. And then ultimately what happens with his sister wives, there's a lot of things that they can do because, the way that Aegon's line and the fact that he didn't have that many children and the overall stories that they want to tell almost makes me forgive or be a little bit differential to George R.R. Martin's lackadaisical work ethic. But let's see what we have on display so far, because Game of Thrones Aegon's Conquest spin-off in the works from Batman Part 2 writer. Well, we don't have Batman 2 out there. I don't know who the writer is. Like, his work history is not that impressive, which could be good, it could be bad. We've seen other experienced writers work on different projects from different studios to varying levels of success, so we'll have to see. It's just unfortunate because the way that they're announcing these prequels, the way that they're announcing these different stories, because there's that Dunk and Egg story, which is going to be really cool as well. That's also in development. I think there's still hope that you can get that Jon Snow sequel, which if you can go ahead and mothball that one. Haven't heard a lot about it, so hopefully that one gets pushed to the side. But the way that they're releasing House of the Dragon, because I think that has always been earmarked as being 3 or 4 seasons. Like, there's a finite amount of that story that they can actually tell. So if they're going to turn Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, telling all of these different stories like Aegon's Conquest, Blackfire Rebellions, that one will be super cool when they eventually get around to doing Robert's Rebellion. That will be awesome. Like, if they're going to be doing these 3, 4, 5 season long stories and then just try to tell and fill all of the backstory of A Song of Ice and Fire through these different anthologies, it'd be super cool, man. I'd really be looking forward to that because there are so many cool stories that they can tell. So that's where kind of all the theory crafting comes in when it comes to the announcement of the Aegon's Conquest. It's like, where are they going to start the story? Because I got a couple of ideas. Where are they going to end the story? I got a couple more ideas. But let's see. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting way ahead of myself because we're not going to see this for years, okay? HBO is developing another Game of Thrones spin-off series. The company is actively heating up its long in discussion Aegon's Conquest idea. HBO is partnering with Matt Tomlin and the in-demand scribe who did uncredited work on Matt Reeves' The Batman. Well, I wouldn't hold that against him. And is co-writing its upcoming sequel, Batman Part 2. Also wrote the Keanu Reeves action comic adaptation Berserker. Okay, and an animated Terminator series, which he is also showrunning for Netflix. Yeah, I don't know anything about any of that stuff. Don't know if it's good. Don't know if it's bad. Haven't seen. It's like I know a little bit about the Batman, and depending on what he was ghostwriting, you can go ahead and judge him on that. But ultimately, don't really know. Some of that movie was apparently good. Other parts of it really dragged. What did Mattson write? Aegon's Conquest is basically a direct prequel to the hit House of the Dragon. That is incorrect. There are several stories that could be told. Don't really have any big, tentpole stories that could be told in the intervening years, depending on how far they want to take the Aegon's Conquest stuff too, because you could tell the story of his son when he ultimately ascended the throne. Well, his two sons, seeing the reign of Maegor the Cruel. That could be... Well, it'd be very, very dark, very disturbing. But you could do that. Depends on how close they want to, butt right up to House of the Dragon, the Dance of the Dragons event in the Targaryen history. But it's probably the two things that are right there, especially in the early stages of the Targaryen dynasty. That would be like saying, the conclusion of, House of the Dragon would butt right up with the Blackfire Rebellion. Like, there's, a pretty sizable gap in time that's right there between kings when that ends up happening. But anyways, the story follows the invader Aegon Targaryen, who conquered the continent of Westeros with his sister wives, yes, Rhaenys and Visenya. The dude, the Chad, had two wives. It was his sisters, but that's a Targaryen thing anyways, and they're dragons. Yeah, Aegon has Balerion, who you've seen his skull prominently in the pilot episode, and then I think multiple times in the Red Keep during House of the Dragon. And then also stupid-ass Qyburn shoots a goddamn scorpion bolt through Balerion in, what was that, season 7? Oh my god, that show sucked ass towards the end. But Rhaenys actually was the first, I think she was the first writer for Vhagar. The big mama dragon in House of the Dragon. Yeah, she was the original writer. And then Meraxes, I do believe, Meraxes was Visenya's mount. And Visenya was, more the... Oh, I'm sorry, I messed up the dragons on that one. I had to go ahead and refresh my memory on that one. But no. Yeah, Visenya's mount was Vhagar. Obviously, V and V. That would make sense. She's also the wielder of Dark Sister, okay, which Daemon Targaryen, Matt Smith's character in House of the Dragon, that's his sword. And Rhaenys has, I think mentioned Meraxes before, but she's also the sister wife that's probably a little bit closer to Aegon. Visenya's more the warrior side of things, and she goes on to some really cool conquests during the time of Aegon's conquest. So does Rhaenys too. She goes up to the Reach. Visenya goes down to Dorne, I do believe. Like, there's some cool stories that will be told during this. It's just, where are they going to start? Because I would like to see them start right at the beginning of the Targaryens, okay? When did they start to get those dreams? How did they get those dreams, okay? What makes the Targaryen house, which was a lesser house back when they were a part of the bigger Valerian Empire in Essos before the Doom of Valeria, which is another story that they could tell, or they could just tack on to the beginning of Aegon's Conquest story. And one of the Targaryens that they could have in this story has the dream of the Doom of Valeria leading to the Targaryens leading and heading over to Dragonstone. That's a story that they could tell in the first season, and then go whole hard into the proper story, unifying the kingdom, the second, third season. It's not like a big story or anything like that, mostly because, well, it's a big one-sided affair because they have 3 gigantic dragons. Actually, don't know the size of Meraxes, but we've seen Vhagar in action, and we know how big Balerion is. Anyways, with Dorne only able to, yes, successfully resist. And that's a cool story, which will be interesting to tell. One source described the project as taking a back-to-basics approach to Martin's epic fantasy universe, but I would argue that House of the Dragon is kind of a back to basics, but does that mean that they're going to go ahead and gloss over the magic side of things by removing some of the additional and more intriguing parts of the story, or back to basics, like we're going to stick to the source material, which there's not a lot. It's just broad strokes because there's nothing specifically written down about the conquest. It's just more or less filled in through history books and a lot of extrapolation, but we'll see. Variety previously reported the Conquest as an idea in discussion early last year. Since Thrones concluded in 2019, yeah, we had the really great House of the Dragon Season 1. really awkwardly named A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight, which starts production this year and is based on Martin's Duncan Egg novellas. Which that right there, that's a very grounded story. And that one, if you're going to talk about butting up against any other story, that one right there definitely would lead right into Robert's Rebellion type story. And then ultimately, like if they want to go ahead and they want to redo Game of Thrones specifically, I think everybody would be on board for that. Unfortunately, you can't really keep Charles Dance in cryogenic sleep, so you can go ahead and reprise the role of Tywin Lannister, but oh well. We'll see. A boy can dream off of that one. But speaking of dreams, the Aegon's Conquest show finally being in development, the Conquest can finally make sense of the big reveal of from House of the Dragon. Yeah, because there was a pretty major spoiler from the books that came out of the show, and it involved that stupid little dagger that ended up killing the Night King, y'all. Oh God, kill me. Following a successful first season of the prequel series House of the Dragon, and the announcement of another prequel, yes, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which would be technically in the timeline a sequel to the House of the Dragon, but don't worry about it. HBO has commissioned yet another series set in Westeros' distant past. Yeah, because this is even 200 plus years before House of the Dragon is set up. Yes. Yeah. Now the Game of Thrones network has actively developed the show, about Aegon's Conquest. I just want to know who they're going to cast as Aegon, which, there's been a lot of fantasy fan castings on that one. And well, let me just throw a name like Henry Cavill out there for you. That's been a popular fan cast. And well, we kind of know Henry's history with Warner Brothers, who is ultimately the parent company over the top of this, and well, kind of his unceremonious exit as Superman not that long ago. But because of the major competition and something that very hilariously went head-to-head with the release of House of the Dragon, being one of Henry's former employer, who he actually had a much more acrimonious split with in Amazon with the Rings of Power, I'm just saying if they want to be super petty and also have really good casting for Aegon, even though Blackfire is a really cool sword, a very large sword, and I don't know if his short little arms could go ahead and properly wield that. I just think putting him in a nice silver-haired wig for the competition for a competently written show, that would definitely stick it to Amazon one more time, and I would definitely be on board with that. I'm pretty sure Henry would as well, but then Henry is also developing... is that Warhammer 40k series? No, that's for Netflix, right? Oh no, that is for Amazon. God damn it, and ends up scrapping that idea. So, just keep it pie in the sky on that one. So you'll have to stick it to Lauren Histrich and the stupid Witcher show some other way. But man, just get somebody, super competent for the role, because it's definitely going to have a lot of focus if they keep it back to basics, focusing on Aegon and this prophecy that they ended up alluding to, the story of Aegon the First, the Targaryen royal family continent-spanning dynasty, has been bandied about as a potential spinoff for years. The latest news suggests that HBO is finally ready to commit to it. Aegon's mythical status is well established as the backstory gradually unfolds in Martin's books. Aegon is basically George Washington of the Seven Kingdoms. Yes, exactly. Born on Dragonstone, part of the crumbling Balerion freehold empire in the east, Aegon woke up one day and decided that the continent of Westeros needed to be one political entity. Exactly. So with the help of his two sister wives, Visenya and Rhaenys, and their dragons, Balerion, the Black Dread, Meraxes, I forget the name there, and Vagar, Aegon invaded the disparate Seven Kingdoms, conquered them all. 6 out of the 7 ain't bad. And save for one of them, yes, Dorne, that ended up getting brought into the fold in a story might get alluded to in another series. I won't tell you which ones if you don't want to know, but that's all right. They ruled the new country until his death. Interesting things with that one. Established many of the laws and norms in the Seven Kingdom while using it was still using by the time of Daenerys Targaryen's birth. The less said about that bitch, the better. At least the one that was brought to you on the screen. I don't know. Well, I know that the one from the books is very much different, very much more likable, and makes a whole hell of a lot more sense. But I continue. What the big reveal here was, okay? House of the Dragon's premiere episode ends with a major bit of Game of Thrones lore that hadn't previously appeared in the original series or any of Martin's books yet, but ended up getting the sign-off from it. In the closing scenes, Viserys the first of his name, Viserys the Peaceful, Petty Constantine, shares with his daughter Rhaenyra, Millie Alcock, that his great-grandfather, Aegon the first of his name, had a prophetic vision that has guided the Targaryen dynasty since his landing on the continent. That vision featured hordes of White Walkers climbing over the wall and bringing icy ruin to everything. Aegon invaded Westeros to prevent that fate, and the Targaryens must always sit the Iron Throne to ensure that it doesn't come to pass. According to Hot D showrunner Ryan Condal, that information comes directly from Martin himself. So yeah, depending on when the Aegon's Conquest show is going to start, we're gonna have to see, okay, what were the dreams that Aegon was having, okay? What did he write on that cat's paw dagger? What did he keep there as a memory to keep alive running throughout the Targaryen dynasty? He told us that Aegon was a dreamer, and that was the reason he decided to go and conquer and unite Westeros. He remembered as a conqueror, but he really meant to be a uniter, which is why he approached the things the way that he did. Yeah, because Aegon's conquest kind of sounds a little bit different than how it ultimately does play off. Not a lot just running over going, this is mine now, okay? Like, there's instances of that, and there's some cool battles that'll ultimately play out, but it would definitely be a lot more cerebral, a lot more political, and a lot of the big reasons why I really, really, really like House of the Dragon Season 1. But yeah, man, I think that this is a great decision, something that could definitely fill in a lot of the world building, and be interested to see where they start, how they finish, and what ultimate lore that they can fill in, the showrunners can fill in, because George motherfucker's never gonna ever finish the goddamn books. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.